Hello, I'm Jennifer Coons, one of the reference librarians at the Haverford Township Free Library, and I'm here with you Thursday, May 14 COVID check-in. And today, as you can see, I'm doing something a little bit different. In the lower right-hand corner here, hello. I wanted to share with you something that I referred to in last week when I was talking about how to evaluate this tidal wave of information and news that we're receiving about coronavirus and COVID-19. And I mentioned somebody named Mike Caulfield, who is a digital information literacy specialist working at the University of Washington, Vancouver. He helps instructors and educators to teach, particularly first-year college students, about how to better evaluate the digital sources. So this is his blog. And as a side note, when I learned that it was a blog and not a website, I had to figure out what the difference between website and blog is because I'm very curious. And just as a side note and as an FYI, a blog is in fact a type of website with just a few differences. And the major one is that it's created and maintained usually by one person whose identity and background is clearly stated and transparent. It tends to be updated more regularly. It tends to be more informal and conversational, and it tends to contain content based on one area of interest or expertise, as opposed to a lot of different areas. And it's usually not for commercial purpose. It's usually for education or some kind of sharing. A lot of cooking and recipe sites or blogs. So anyway, back to the matter at hand. So here we are at Mike Caulfield's blog, infodemic.blog, which was created at the beginning of 2020 to actually specialize in digital literacy specifically for coronavirus information that's out there. And specifically via social media feeds like Twitter and Facebook. So here we are on the home page, and if you scroll down, he's just going to summarize the purpose of the blog. If you wanted to follow him on Twitter, I'm actually going to go back to the basic. Oh, you know what? Because I'm not on the home page, I'm going to go back to the home page. I was actually on one of the last pages, sifting through the coronavirus pandemic. And the SIFT part is an acronym. You scroll down, stop, investigate the source, find better coverage, trace claims, quotes, and media to the original context. Now, if you wanted to follow Mr. Caulfield on Twitter, it would be at Infodemic Blog, which I think is really neat. You could follow information literacy on Twitter. I want to go back to the site now. So he's outlining some simple tips and techniques you can use to try to verify and critically assess and evaluate what you're seeing, what's coming into you, especially in terms of shared stories where you're not sure what the original source is. And it's a story, a tweet or post that's been shared with you by someone. So the basic skills. So the first skill is the hover. It says, let's hover. I'm going to click on that. Now, if you're on a mobile device, you're not going to hover. You're going to just tap. But if you're on a computer or a laptop, you're going to use your mouse to hover. And so what he's giving a lot of examples. The basic examples he's giving are from Twitter. I'm going to scroll down and show you what I mean. So here's an example. It's a video that is captioned as a Chinese government rounding up COVID patients forcibly. So if you see up here, this is the sharer of this story, Tom Thumbkit. And what he's going to show you is the hover down here. He's going to hover on Tom Thumbkit. And it's going to give you a little more information about this, the person or organization that's behind this. Doesn't give you a lot. Doesn't say anything. It doesn't look like it's a news source to me. All you can eat smorgasbord of hand-picked delicious sweet tweets for your political palate. Donations welcome. So we're going to scroll down a little bit. Now he's going to show, here's something over here. If you see this little blue check, that's what it's called on Twitter, a verification check mark. And verification check mark on Twitter is designed to indicate that this person is who they say they are. And so you have to go through a couple of steps to earn that verification check mark. So this person has a verification check mark. He's tweeting something, but nothing too provocative. He's just saying, travel to China. This is hitting home for me. So we want to find out who this person is. Turns out they are have a science background. It's meteorology. They're not a coronavirus expert or a virologist at all. So we'll scroll down a little more, and now here's another post talking about how Sacramento County. I'm going to wait till has detected its first confirmed coronavirus case. And we're going to look at who this is. Verification checkmark. This is actually a reporter. It says Emmy Award winning reporter with the Sacramento affiliate of CBS. So to me, this is a journalist who has undergone journalism training, ethics. They're reporting facts as best they can. If they make a mistake, they will correct them. So this is the hover. This is to give you a little bit of information about the person or organization behind whatever the tweet or post is. Now I'm going to scroll down, and here is Mike Caulfield at the bottom with another video about what he's just talked about. Now we're going to go to the next technique called Just Add Wikipedia. And this is where, so let's say you have, you've hovered and you found out some information about the person who's sharing or tweeting, but you want to find out more about that organization. Maybe you haven't heard of it, or you're not quite sure what their deal is, or maybe there's a little bit of a political leaning. So here's an example. The post says, COVID-19 does not appear to be any more dangerous for pregnant women compared to the general population. There's no evidence of transmission to the fetus. Okay. So this person is reporting, we hovered over her name. We find out that she's a health reporter for Vox. So we want to find out about Vox. All right, so here's where we find out who she's affiliated with. So the if we don't know Vox already, let's find out a little more about Vox. So what he's going to do is, here's what he's doing. He's opening up another tab, and he's putting the word Vox in along with the word Wikipedia. And then he's going to come up with the Google results. I'm going to wait till he's finished with this. He's showing what he's finding on Wikipedia now. His Google results are going to show the Wikipedia right there. It shows, so it's saying it's a news site that has a liberal leaning. It's won some awards. It's a legitimate news site. All right, and now he's checking this on another search engine on DuckDuckGo. So he's doing some more. Okay, so here's another post by someone named David Ick. NWO agendas accompanying the coronavirus epidemic. So here we're going to go to another search bar. We're going to search David Ick, Wikipedia, and we're going to find out a little bit more about this poster because I've never heard of him. So here it is. So here he's right there, David Ick, Wikipedia. He's going to click on that. Wikipedia is a great source for just thumbnail information, just like background thumbnail information. So here's what he finds. Born 1952, is an English professional conspiracy theorist and former footballer and sports broadcaster. So we know that the person who posted that news story is a conspiracy theorist and a professional one at that. So that's good to know. It's just good to have that information, to know a little bit of who's behind that story. Okay, so we're going to scroll down more and go to the next technique, which is the news search cross-check. And this is a technique you can use when you find a news story and you're like, especially one that's particularly dramatic or provocative, and you're like, wow, could this be true? And so what you're going to do is take keywords from the story and search to see if you can find other news sources that are reporting that same story. So here is a post. COVID-19 coronavirus can stay alive on surfaces for 5 to 20 days. Money is now being disinfected by staff to prevent money circulation spreading the virus. Okay, so here is the source up here, 24/7 Crisis News Live. And what Mike Caulfield is saying is, he says this looks like one of these news aggregators that are just try to find clicks and sort of prey on these crisis situations. So what he's going to do now is he's going to take some keywords from the story, put it in a search bar or an address bar on his browser, on his search bar in Google, and he's going to look to see if other news sources have. So he's looking at Crisis News Live. He realizes sort of an aggregator that tries to play up crises. Money is now being disinfected. He's putting that in his search bar, and he's seeing. So he says The Guardian looks like it's reported on this. CNBC. China cleans banknotes from ABC News. So it looks like it's an actual legit story. He clicks on the Guardian story and sees that, yes, this is factual. This is actually happening. Okay. There's another story here. China is now killing their citizens in the streets. It's accompanied with a video. So he is taking keywords from that story. China doctor's gun kill. He's trying to find other stories. It's not finding. So he's changing his search terms. He's putting China doctors kill, gun Wuhan kill, and seeing if he can find anything for that. What he's finding here is actually, so this is it. This is a loop. So not finding anything there. When he puts China doctors gun kill Wuhan, he's actually finding something from a website called Snopes, which is a fact-checking website. And he learns that the people who look like doctors walking through the streets in this video are actually police in masks and scrubs to protect them from infection while they do their normal rounds, and no one is being shot. So the original tweet implied that people were being killed by roving bands of doctors when in fact they were not, and used that impression to further an agenda that they had about healthcare. Okay, so the next technique is to check the date. This is pretty simple. Very simple, but it can have a pretty profound effect on the context of the story. And the example he's going to give here is this tweet about new flu unstoppable, WHO says, calls for vaccine. So if this was a tweet that we found today, we would be like, it's from Reuters. He's hovering and clicking on this little eye down here, which is giving information about the source of where this came from. And it's actually from Reuters, which is a very reputable source. Okay. So he says, so what's up here? If we're eagle-eyed, we may have already caught it. This is an update about the H1N1 flu back in 2009. So he's tracing the story back to its original context, and he's seeing right here, it's from July 13, 2009, new flu unstoppable. So it doesn't have anything to do with the coronavirus. Even though the coronavirus is rather unstoppable at this point, that particular headline had nothing to do with coronavirus. Okay, so the next technique is click through and find. And this has to do with something, I'm going to read a little bit. He says, one of the most common and damaging disinformation techniques is false framing. So that's when you take a real article, but you summarize it. You post something and you make your own summary in a way that is deceptive. So if you click through the article and do a quick web page search for relevant terms from that article, you can often find what the original article was really about. This is a little bit more of an involved technique, but I'm going to show you an example. So, okay. Harvard professor Charles Lieber among 3 charged with lying about Chinese government ties. They arrested the coronavirus head biologist at Harvard. Money corrupts. Okay, so what he's doing is he wants to look at who's behind the actual story. And so he's looking down here, it looks like CNN. So that's a reputable source. Okay. So he says there are 2 parts to this: the linked story, which is from this reputable source, and the summary of what is in the linked story, okay, which is provided by someone we don't know. So step 2 is he's going to look to the page, the CNN page, for the term coronavirus on a desktop browser. There's also a way to do this by hitting Control F or Command F on a Mac. On a phone, you can use the little drop-down menu your browser provides, usually the upper right-hand corner of your browser. And he's looking on the CNN page for coronavirus. And what he finds is the real story has to do with this Harvard professor. He's a chemistry professor, and he was actually charged with espionage. It has nothing to do with biological anything. So we see that the term coronavirus isn't even in the original story. Harvard professor among 3 charged with lying about Chinese government ties. That's what the real story is about. So you're going to verify the frame by clicking through and searching. And you do it every time unless you have a high trust in the sharing source. Okay, so those are basic skills. I wanted to give you some examples and show you this blog, which I think is really useful in this time, to just give you some tips and some pretty simple techniques to try to verify and critically evaluate. Don't leave your brain on the couch while you scroll through your social media, to just remember to try to be more critical and be very thoughtful about what you're seeing. So thanks for being with me today and looking through infodemic.blog with me. Check it out for yourself, either on your mobile device or on your laptop or your desktop computer. And I hope you find it useful and helpful. Bye-bye.